Our show starts in less than 2 minutes. Greetings, listeners. What you are about to hear is a monumental achievement in podcasting.
Lorenzo, you don't think you might be overstating things a bit here, do you?
No, I would like to read some testimonials from members of our audience.
Do we have an audience?
Of course.
And they've given us testimonials?
Recorded reviews. Yes.
Well, oh my gosh, Lorenzo, this is exciting. Why didn't you tell me?
I just did.
Well, go ahead, let's hear them.
I love this podcast. I especially love Lorenzo. I think he should do more of the talking.
This is a wonderful program. Lorenzo is quite charming.
Yeah, Lorenzo, these sound made up.
No, what are you saying?
Well, I'm saying I think that these are AI-generated friends of yours, Lorenzo. Have any real people left reviews?
Yes, of course.
This is the best show ever made. Nice job, Jennifer. We're proud of you.
Mom?
Oh, this is a great show.
Dad? So, wait a minute, Lorenzo. You're saying that all of our testimonials are either from AI characters or my parents?
Yes, what's wrong with that?
So, that's our audience at this point, huh? I mean, that is an audience. Sort of.
Now you're talking. Oh, I have another statement from your mom.
Okay, let's hear it.
Lorenzo is especially nice.
Oh, brother.
What?
We have just seen rushes direct from Hollywood of pictures being released in the coming weeks. And we are proud to announce that this theater will soon bring you the greatest array of pictures ever to reach our screen. You'll see the finest stars in exciting performances. You'll thrill to the suspense, comedy, romance, and drama of world-famous stories. Coming to this theater soon.
In the last few episodes of this series, we've gone to some dark places. Our main characters have been corrupt, manipulative, all-around rotten scoundrels. There's been murder, mayhem, death, and destruction. For those of you listening to this show at work or at bedtime, yikes, what a downer for a background. Well, how about a sweet, uplifting romance? That's what we've got in this week's featured film, Marty, starring Ernest Borgnine. Well, this is one of my favorites. I can't wait to share it with those of you who have never heard of it before. Also, we're dedicating portions of this episode to an exploration of our first pretend sponsor, prunes. I'm going to attempt to make a classic dessert featuring this fruit that gets you on the run, prune whip. Will it be gross? Almost certainly, but we're living dangerously in this episode of the Vintage Century Idle Hour.
And now, please allow me to introduce our host, Jennifer Passariello.
Thanks, Lorenzo. Oh, spring has sprung. The birds are chirping, the temperatures are warming up, and love is in the air. Life is beautiful, Lorenzo.
I wouldn't know.
Well, what have you been doing lately? Have you had a chance to get out and enjoy the springtime?
I don't go anywhere or do anything.
Oh, I keep forgetting. Everyone, meet Lorenzo, my AI-generated announcer and superfan.
Good evening.
Well, hey, Lorenzo, we do have some serious business to get to today.
What's that?
We need to talk about our pretend sponsor.
Prunes.
Yes, prunes. Thank you for remembering.
How could I not remember?
Well, you know, sometimes I get the impression that you're not really paying attention.
Well, I love prunes.
You do? I don't know that I've ever had one. What do they taste like?
I don't know. I've never had one either.
Well, now that's exactly my point.
What?
Here we have our first pretend sponsor, and we have no idea what the product is really like.
And
And I think we need to learn more about it, don't you?
is someone paying us for this?
That's not the point, Lorenzo.
What is the point?
I think we need to taste them.
Oh, no.
Yes, no, I happen to have some right here. And honestly, they look pretty good. Oh, and check out these health benefits. They're high in potassium, high in vitamins K, B6, riboflavin, and niacin. They're a good source of iron. They build strong bones. It says here that they reduce cholesterol. They may lower blood pressure. And they help reduce appetite.
I'm sure that's true.
Let's see, what else? They provide antioxidants. They support a healthy gut microbiome.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know, but it sounds good. Let's see, they help with overactive bladder and may prevent hemorrhoids by reducing constipation due to their high fiber content. This has taken a bit of a turn. They can cause bloating, gas, and diarrhea. Oh my.
I'm afraid to eat them now.
Oh, that just happens if you eat them in enormous quantities, I think.
I don't want to take a chance.
Oh, Lorenzo, come on. I've never heard of someone being afraid of a prune. For heaven's sake. I think we owe it to our pretend sponsor to at least try one.
I don't have to try strange foods. It's in my contract.
Yeah, we don't have a contract. And besides, prunes aren't strange. You can get them at Walmart.
I'm going to consult my lawyer.
Listen, I'll go first. Hold on. Well, I thought they were going to taste like raisins. I mean, I know that's crazy. Raisins are grapes. I think prunes are plums. But, they're not as sweet as I was expecting. Sort of gummy. Not the worst thing I've ever had by any means.
A ringing endorsement.
Okay, well, now it's your turn. It's not going to kill you.
Okay. But I want a pay raise immediately.
Go on.
I'm dying.
You're not dying, Lorenzo. Well, here's what I've learned in the last few minutes. We're never going to get a real sponsor. I have one word for you. Loneliness. Loneliness is a favorite theme of mine because it's so universal. I mean, who doesn't know the depths of sadness to which we can go when we're feeling alone in the world? We visited this theme already in episode 6 of this series when we featured Separate Tables, a brilliant film directed by Delbert Mann. Well, guess what? Tonight we have another brilliant film directed by Delbert Mann. And both of these films are studies in loneliness, not just as a human condition, but as a driver of behavior and a shaper of character. Loneliness does something to people. You know, people live out their loneliness in any number of decisions that they make in their lives. And that's essentially what Mann seems to be spotlighting in these two films. Now, several days ago, my team played a game trying to guess favorites of mine in all these different categories, and one of those categories was favorite films. Well, when they learned that Marty was one of my top 3 films of all time, I could tell by the looks on their faces that they'd never even heard of it. You know, and that's what I love so much about this series. You know, not only am I learning a lot as I'm working my way through these films, but this is also an invitation to people to explore these old gems if they've never had the time to do so before. And in the case of Marty, this film is definitely worth our time. Marty stars Ernest Borgnine, who has long been one of my favorites. But now I have to admit that when I think of Ernest Borgnine, you know what I automatically think of? 1972's The Poseidon Adventure. Yeah, that film, after all these years, continues to capture my imagination. I think that was the first film that I ever saw in a theater, but it was a drive-in theater. It wasn't the initial release of the film. This was some years later, but I don't know if they were just recycling old films or something. But anyway, it was in the drive-in movie theater in Topeka where I grew up, and my parents took me. And I just thought that was the most amazing story I had ever heard of. I mean, a ship flipped upside down, people trying to escape by climbing up to the bottom of the submerged ship. I mean, that is a cool premise, is it not? I still am fascinated by that film. Okay, but that's not the only thing that Ernest Borgnine was in besides Marty. He's been in a lot of stuff. Maybe his best-known films are From Here to Eternity, that was in 1953, The Dirty Dozen in 1967, The Wild Bunch in 1969. Ooh, and how about this one? Willard in 1971. Ugh, have you heard of that film? Definitely not my genre, not anything I'm interested in, but it's been kind of popular. I think it has something of a cult following. So it's my understanding that Willard is about this loner. So there we have the loneliness theme again. But anyway, this guy is a loner, and his only friends are rats. And one of his rat friends gets killed, and so he starts turning his rats against his enemies. So I guess he trains them, or I don't know what he does. But anyway, these rats end up killing his enemies. I mean, yeah, not my kind of film. But anyway, Ernest Borgnine was in that one. Now, he was in other things too. He was in McHale's Navy, which was a television show. Gosh, he's just done so much. He's done drama, weird horror stuff, action adventure, as in The Poseidon Adventure, and comedy. So, not only did he have a diverse career, but it was very prolific and very long. So his first credited acting gig was in 1951. His last one was in 2012 when he was 95 years old. Now, interesting thing about that role, that was a voice role. He was the voice of the Mermaid Man on SpongeBob SquarePants. Another one that I haven't seen. I know nothing about SpongeBob SquarePants. But anyway, he was also nominated a few years earlier for an Emmy Award for his work on, I think it was the finale of ER, that series ER. He was 92 years old. In other words, he was just everywhere for over 61 years. Okay, well, that's Ernest Borgnine. Let's now circle back to Marty, which I think was probably his finest performance. And wow, was that a performance. I absolutely love him in this film. He plays Marty with such melancholy and sensitivity. You start to believe that he is Marty, and you just kind of fall in love with him. Or is it just me? I don't know. Where can I find a guy like Marty? That's the question. All right, anyway, who is he? Marty is a 34-year-old bachelor. He works in a butcher shop. He would like to be married, but he just has not had luck with women. He hasn't found women that he felt were a match for him, but also he's been rejected by women a lot. He just can't seem to win at love. And so he's all but given up on the idea of getting married. He hangs out with other confirmed bachelors. They're lonely too. They're kind of trying to hold on to their fading youth. Because remember, all these guys are about, 33, 34 years old. But Marty is different than these guys that he hangs out with because he has dreams. He's making plans. He wants to own his own butcher shop. So in other words, he's trying to make the most of his life in spite of his loneliness. Okay, but the question is it too late for him? Does he still have a chance at love? Well, that's what we find out in this story. Pain is at the heart of this premise. Marty notes at one point that he is the professor of pain. Oh my gosh. I mean, right there, that's kind of heartbreaking, right? Well, I think one of the reasons that this is such a great movie is that it's timeless. It was released in 1955, but this story definitely works today. It's about people searching for each other, and about the interference of other people in that search. I mean, who can't relate to that? All right, well, anyway, more on all of that later. For now, let's get to our cast. We've got Ernest Borgnine as our star. He plays Marty Paletti. Then we've got Betsy Blair as our love interest. I have never seen Betsy Blair in any other film. I don't know much about her. However, she was married to that dancer. Oh, what? The name. Oh, Gene Kelly. I think she was married to Gene Kelly. So there you go, Betsy Blair. And then we've got Joe Montel, who is Marty's best friend, Angie. Now, what about our Academy Award stats? Well, we have some. Marty won Best Picture, Best Director went to Delbert Mann, and Best Screenplay went to Patty Chayefsky. But we also had several nominations. Joe Montel was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Betsy Blair was up for Best Supporting Actress. We had Best Art Direction, Black and White, and a nomination for Best Cinematography, Black and White. Oh, and by the way, this is another title in our series that has been selected for inclusion in the Library of Congress's National Film Registry. Yes, it is culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. Now, if you have not seen Marty, please do yourself a favor, pause our show, and go watch it. It's streaming for free out on Amazon Prime. I promise you, you will love this film. And when you come back, you're welcome. Well, let's take a little break before we jump into tonight's story. First, we'll have a word from our sponsor, and yeah, it's me. I'm the sponsor. Then we'll hear a sweet little song for a sweet little movie. Then it's on to Marty from 1955. Back in a moment. Hey listeners, most of you are tuning in from the major podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thank you so much for doing this. This show is a creative outlet and a passion project for me. And when I see that people are actually listening, well, that's even more fun. But did you know that I'm also out on YouTube? My channel is, guess what? Vintage Century Idle Hour. If I can get some more engagement out there, that would signal to me that maybe I should expand a little bit, do a wider variety of stuff on that platform. Also, I have some soothing animations as a backdrop to our show. These are dark and really perfect for bedtime listening. So if you'd like some visual with your audio, check out our show on YouTube.
Attention listeners. May I please have your attention? The following portion of our show contains a number of spoilers.
We're going to begin our story by getting to know Marty Paletti. Now, I already described him in my intro as lonely. He's a man who's unlucky at love. He's 34, lives with his mother, and works as a butcher. All of his brothers and sisters are already married, but he just can't find the right girl. His mother's worried. She's aging. Her boy is unhappy. She wants him to settle down. Now, the women who shop at his butcher shop, they are the worst. I mean, they actually shame him about his bachelor status. So not only is he lonely, but he feels shame about his loneliness. I mean, this is a very painful combination. Of course, finding a girl isn't very easy. You know, it's not just a matter of going out and finding a girl. I mean, he's already tried this multiple times. In fact, I want to play a clip of one of Marty's attempts to date a girl. This is a girl that he had met a few weeks prior to this scene. And honestly, he doesn't even really care for this girl. But he has so few options that he decides to give her a call. Now, warning, this is a heartbreaker. It's a beautiful Oscar-worthy scene, and probably one of the reasons Borgnine won the Best Actor award, Academy Award for this film. But it is a heartbreaker.
Oh, hello there. Is this Mary Feeney? Hello there. This is Marty Paletti. I wonder if you recall me. Well, I'm kind of a stocky guy. The last time we met was in the Archeo Chester. You was with a friend of yours, and I was with a friend of mine named Angie. This was about a month ago. The Archeo Chester on West Farm Square. Yeah, you was sitting in front of us, and we was annoying you, and you got mad, and I'm the fellow who works in the butcher shop. Oh, come on, you know who I am. That's right, and then we went to Howard Johnson, we had hamburgers. You had a milkshake. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, I'm the stocky one, the heavy-set fella. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you recall me, because I had a pretty nice time that night, and I was wondering how everything was with you. How's everything? That's swell. Yeah, well, I'll tell you why I called. I was figuring on taking in a movie tonight, and I was wondering if you and your friend would care to see a movie tonight with me and my friend. Yeah, tonight. Well, I know it's a little late to call for a date, but I didn't know myself to... Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, what about... Well, how about next Saturday night? Are you free next Saturday night? Well, what about the Saturday after that? Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I understand that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Again, heartbreaker, right? I did not lie. Well, all of this is very troubling for Marty's mother, but she gets an idea. She learns that the Stardust Ballroom is this really great place to meet girls, or she calls them tomatoes. Now, I want to play another clip here because I think this is just a fabulous exchange between Marty and his mother. They're at the dinner table. I think this tells us a lot about who Marty is and what got him to this point. So let's listen in.
So, what are you gonna do tonight, Marty?
I don't know, Ma. I'm all knocked out. I may just hang around the house.
Why don't you go to the Stardust Ballroom?
What?
I say, why don't you go to the Stardust Ballroom? It's loaded with tomatoes.
It's loaded with what?
Tomatoes?
Who told you about the Stardust Ballroom, Ma?
Tommy. He says it's a very nice place.
Oh, Thomas. Ma, it's just a big dance hall, that's all it is. I've been there 100 times. Loaded with tomatoes. Boy, you're funny, Ma.
Marty, I don't want you hanging around the house tonight. I want you to go take a shave and go dance.
Ma, when are you going to give up? You got a bachelor on your hands. I ain't never going to get married.
You're going to get married.
Ma, sooner or later, there comes a point in a man's life when he's got to face some facts. And one fact I got to face is that whatever it is that women like, I ain't got it. I chased after enough girls in my life. I went to enough dances. I got hurt enough. I don't want to get hurt no more. I just called up a girl this afternoon. I got a real brush off, boy. I figured I was past the point of being hurt, but that hurt. Some stupid woman who I didn't even want to call up. She gave me the brush. No, Ma, I don't want to go to Stardust Ballroom because all that ever happened to me there was girls made me feel like I was a bug. I got feelings, you know. I had enough pain. No thanks, Ma.
Marty.
No. I'm going to stay home tonight and watch the hit parade.
You're going to die without a son.
So I'll die without a son.
Oh, Marty, put on the blue suit, huh?
Blue suit, gray suit. I'm just a fat little man, a fat, ugly man.
You're not ugly.
I'm ugly, I'm ugly, I'm ugly.
Marty.
Ma, leave me alone!
Ma, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? I'm miserable enough as it is. All right, so I'll go to the Stardust Ballroom. I'll put on a blue suit and I'll go. And you know what I'm going to get for my trouble? Heartache. A big night of heartache.
Okay, this clip is all I need to fall in love with Marty. I mean, first of all, he's a really good guy. I mean, he's kind to his mom. He's been hurt. That usually leads to a natural empathy with the pain of others, so I like that. Now, he says he's ugly, that he's an ugly fat man, so there's humility there. That's always attractive. But honestly, physically, is he a fat, ugly man? No, I don't think so. I mean, he's not a model, but I think he just has this simple charm about him. I think he's fabulous. Well, and guess what? Despite his initial objections, he ends up going to the Stardust Ballroom. Yeah, that's right. He relents. He decides to put himself out there again. And what he doesn't know is that fate is going to intervene at the ballroom this time because someone else is going to the Stardust Ballroom that night, and a chance encounter is going to change everything. Please allow me to introduce you to Clara. She's 29, a science teacher. She's got a career. But socially, she's very awkward. She's kind of a plain girl, and she's lonely. Well, she's been set up on a blind date, and she and her date are meeting for the first time at the Stardust Ballroom. But her date takes one look at her, and he immediately starts planning ways to ditch her. In fact, he even approaches Marty. This is a guy he doesn't even know, but he approaches Marty and he starts talking about, he needs somebody to take this girl off of his hands. He's even willing to pay $5 for someone to do this. Now, I love Marty's reaction to this. When this creepy guy starts talking to him about ditching this girl, he really doesn't react at all. He just sort of is listening. But the minute the guy offers him $5, that's when we see Marty's whole countenance change. He says, "What?" He's shocked that this creep would try to pay someone to take this girl. In fact, he even says as much. He says, "You can't just walk out on a girl like that." But that's exactly what this creepy guy does. He walks away, he finds someone else to pay to take her home, and Marty watches this whole transaction from afar. He's shocked, right? He sees Clara in the distance. She's with the creepy blind date and this random guy that he found to take her home. And we can't hear what they're saying, but we can see that Clara is shaking her head. She's declining that offer. She will take herself home. But you can see very clearly she's heartbroken. In fact, she runs out of the ballroom. Well, Marty follows her, and he asks her to dance. Oh my gosh, I love this scene. So we've got this heartbroken girl, stranger. He doesn't know her, but he's moved to go and follow her. And he asks her to dance. They're on like the rooftop. It's just the two of them that are out there. Oh, it's just such a beautiful scene. I just melt. I melt when I see this scene. Okay. At this point, she just totally breaks down and she starts crying. And in fact, she hugs him. Now, I can relate to this, right? I mean, have you ever been sad and then somebody is kind to you and that just breaks you down? You know, just because somebody is kind, you just completely fall apart. Well, that's what happens in this situation. Now, I know you're thinking, wow, this movie is such a downer because we've got a lot of broken hearts here. No, it's not a downer. Hang on. You just got to trust me on this. It does take a turn. But anyway, Marty and Clara hit it off. And here's a really sweet exchange between them while they're dancing.
I've begun to cry a lot lately.
Well, I cry a lot, too. I'm a big crier.
This is something very recent with me, this bursting into tears at the slightest thing.
Well, I cry all the time, any little thing. All my brothers-in-law, they're always telling me what a good-hearted guy I am. Well, you don't get to be good-hearted by accident. You get kicked around long enough, you get to be a real professor of pain. I know exactly how you feel. And I also want you to know I'm having a very good time with you right now and really enjoying myself. So you see, you're not such a dog as you think you are.
I'm having a very good time, too.
So there you are. So I guess I'm not such a dog as I think I am.
No, you're a very nice guy. I don't know why some girl hasn't grabbed you off long ago.
Well, I don't know either. I think I'm a very nice guy. I also think I'm a pretty smart guy in my own way. Excuse me. You know how I figure two people get married and they're going to live together 40, 50 years, so it's got to be more than whether they're just good looking or not. And now you tell me you think you're not so good looking. Well, my father was a real ugly man, but my mother adored him. She told me how she used to get so miserable sometimes, like everybody, you know? And she says my father always tried to understand. Now, I used to see them sometimes when I was a kid, sitting in the living room, talking, and I used to adore my old man because he was always so kind. That's one of the most beautiful things I have in my life, where my father and mother were. And my father was a real ugly man. So it doesn't matter if you look like a gorilla. You see, dogs like us, we ain't such dogs as we think we are.
They are really hitting it off. You know, Marty tells Clara about his dream of buying a butcher shop, and they just kind of encourage each other. You know, they lift each other up. This is the world's greatest date. Later, the conversation becomes more serious, and Marty tells Clara that, you know, when he got out of the army, he felt really lost and he didn't know what to do. And he even said that he had considered killing himself. And you know what Clara says when he says that to her? She says the only two words anyone wants to hear in a moment like that. She says, I know. She understands him. In that same conversation, Marty says, I'm Catholic. Are you Catholic? And Clara says, yes, I am. Perfect. I mean, this just does my own little Catholic heart good. Right? It's perfect. So in about 3 hours' time, they discover really everything they need to know about each other. They have a shared sense of humor, a shared understanding of each other's life experience, and shared faith. These two are a dream match. Well, they ultimately end up back at Marty's house. And it's at that point that the story takes a bit of a little pivot because Marty tries to kiss Clara. And it's really awkward. I mean, she's stiff as a board. She turns away. And he feels like she's rejected him. So rejection again, right? But then she goes on to explain that, you know, she really does like him, but she just didn't know how to handle the situation because of her lack of experience. So again, they're vulnerable with each other. I think this whole evening, this whole date that they've had is really the compression of an ideal courtship. It's really compressed in time, but they're able to show each other the best of themselves as well as their vulnerabilities. So it's really this, perfect date. Well, Marty takes Clara home. He takes her home by bus. He promises to call her at 2:30 the next afternoon after Mass. Okay, so he's going to Mass. That's another good sign. He's going to Mass. He says, after Mass, I'll call you. Well, he is so over the moon about this girl that, he kind of does this little jig on the way home. He was going to take the bus, but instead he sort of punches at this bus sign, this stop sign, because he's just so happy. And he starts looking for a cab instead. Now, you would think that his mother, his friends, all the people that he knows would be really happy for Marty, right? Nope, they're not. Marty's Aunt Catherine moves in. She's living with Marty and his mother now. And she starts warning Marty's mother that, oh, if he marries this girl, she's going to be cast aside. Now, why would she say that? Well, because Catherine has just been pushed aside by her own son and her son's new wife. So she says, oh, that's what's going to happen to you. Well, Marty's mom starts thinking about this and fearing that Marty's new romance could spell her abandonment. She starts belittling Clara. I mean, oh, it's terrible. How can you do this, right? But she's afraid. She's afraid. Well, what about Marty's friends? Well, maybe they're feeling a little envious. They don't love the fact that Marty has what they all secretly really want, is somebody to love. So they start making fun of Clara because she's homely. She's not a really beautiful girl. And they try to convince him to forget her, to stay with us. They're unmarried and he can stay with them and share in their collective loneliness. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that, right? Well, with all this pressure on Marty, he fails to call her. So remember, he was going to be calling her at 2:30. He doesn't call her. And so now we get a shot of Clara. She's at home. She's realizing he's not calling. And she's watching television with her parents. But they're not paying attention to her. They're watching the show. And we just see her sitting very sad, very teary-eyed. It's just a really sad little scene. Now, for his part, Marty has resumed his routine, but it's not a happy one. And he realizes that he's giving up a woman he likes and that makes him happy. So over the objections of his friends, he dashes to a phone booth to call Sarah.
Miserable and lonely and stupid. What am I, crazy or something? I got something good here. What am I hanging around with you guys for?
What's the matter with you? Wait a minute, will you, Marty? What's the matter, Marty? What's the matter with you?
You don't like her. My mother don't like her. She's a dog, and I'm a fat, ugly man. Well, all I know is I had a good time last night. I'm going to have a good time tonight. If we have enough good times together, I'm going to get down on my knees. I'm going to beg that girl to marry me. If we make a party on New Year's, I got a date for that party. You don't like her. That's too bad.
Hello? Excuse me, Ange. Hello, Clara?
And that's where our story ends. In that last scene, we see Marty talking to Clara on the phone, and he's leaving his friend Angie to his own loneliness. Well, this is a love story, right? But it's also a story that challenges Hollywood's conception of love, which is usually full of passion and the attraction of two beautiful people. Well, in this case, these aren't two beautiful people. The antidote to loneliness isn't some great passion. It's connection. It's finding someone that shares your rhythm. It's a simple story, but it's one of the best in my opinion. Okay, so we're ready for my official rating. I bet you can't even imagine what it's going to be, right? But first, let's hear from our pretend sponsor, prunes. They're the fruit that gets you on the run. Have you had your prunes today?
I think a lot of people don't realize how good prunes really are. Not hard and dry like prunes used to be. Plump, moisturized, tender, sweet, still packed with energy. All those vitamins and minerals, natural fruit sugars, just taste better. Do you realize that this plump, juicy prune cooks up in just a few minutes? Put them on your cereal. Chop them up into muffin mix. Delicious. You know something else? Makes a great snack right out of the package. How long has it been since you've tried prunes? You don't know what you're missing.
Jennifer, please tell everyone about our rating system.
Our scale is pretty simple. We classify a film as either unwatchable, watchable, or rewatchable. An unwatchable film is really bad. In other words, it's unwatchable. A watchable film is one that's basically okay. It's entertaining, a pleasant way to spend some time, but nothing special. A rewatchable film is one that's really good, and it has enough depth and layers to reward multiple viewings.
Is that it?
No, one more thing. I have a worksheet that helps me calculate the rating. I essentially award points, or what I call diamonds, to films based on 5 factors: story, character development, writing, pace, and discussability. Now that's where I consider whether or not there's enough depth to a story to generate a lot of discussion.
Anything else? Because this is dragging on.
No, I think that's it.
Then let's get on with the show.
Okay, let's get to my official rating for this wonderful film. Story. Was this an interesting and entertaining story worth telling? Yes, 5 diamonds. This is the story, really. I mean, there is no more common thread that ties all humanity together than a desire to connect with others and to find love. This is a story everyone can relate to, whether you're married or single. No one is immune to loneliness or the persuasive power of others' opinions. So we had a lot of opinions in this story as well. Well, I can't think of a more universal story than this one, so easy 5 diamonds. Character development. Were the characters dimensional? Did their actions ring true? An emphatic 5 diamonds for character development. I believed these characters. There were many facets to Marty. He was tender-hearted, sensitive, but, frustrated too. And I want to talk for a moment about Marty's mother. So remember that she was really torn here. She wanted to see her son happy, but she also wanted to avoid isolation and abandonment if he were to marry this girl. But what's great about the character development here is Marty is so well drawn that he wouldn't do that. We know that he wouldn't do that. We can make predictions. We can make judgments about how he would respond in different situations because that character is so well developed. And there is no way that he would abandon his mother. We've already seen how well he takes care of her. We've seen what a tender-hearted guy he is. He's not going to leave his mom behind, So why she would have that fear, that's unfounded, an unfounded fear. Okay, what about writing? Was the dialogue beautiful, funny, poignant, and or thought-provoking? 5 diamonds. I love the dialogue here, especially Marty's lament about his pain. But there's also that part where he talks about the love of his parents. That just about brings me to tears. It is so beautiful. Actually, several lines from this film have made it into my personal quote collection, so definitely 5 diamonds. At what speed did the story unfold? Really quickly, 5 diamonds. I thought it was just right. In fact, this is a rather short film. I think it's like an hour and a half. It might be a little bit under an hour and a half. I think it was the shortest film nominated for an Academy Award that year. if I remember correctly. But anyway, it's not a long film. A lot is packed into a very short amount of time, so great pacing here. And then finally, discussability. Does the story have enough depth to explore and analyze through discussion? Easy 5 diamonds here. This would be another great pick for a film club discussion because, as I said before, we can all relate to the themes depicted here. And there are, those 2 parallel storylines, the storyline of Marty and Clara, but then also the storyline of the cousin and his marriage. I think there's a lot to discuss here. So 5 diamonds. Okay, well, that's easy math. That brings us to a score of 5 diamonds. It was straight 5s all the way. This is comfortably in the rewatchable category. In fact, I think I've probably seen this film at least 4 times. All right, well, do put this one on your watch list. Again, it's streaming right now for free on Amazon Prime.
Now it's time for Idle Hour Trivia.
Hey, Lorenzo, before we move on to this week's trivia question, did you watch Marty?
I watched the trailer.
Yeah, well, I figured. You know, Lorenzo, I think you would really like this one.
Why?
Well, because it's a romance. I know how much you like romance novels.
No, I've given them up.
Oh, you have?
Yes, I've given up on love.
Oh, because you're AI generated, not a real person, and therefore incapable of love?
No, because I've decided I like the bachelor lifestyle.
The bachelor lifestyle. I'm not even going to ask what that looks like. Let's go ahead and move on to this week's trivia question.
Okay.
This one's about the Twilight Zone. Yes, you do know how I like to make connections between our movies and Twilight Zone episodes, and I'm able to do that this week. Now, we already know that Marty won Best Picture and that 3 of the main actors were nominated for Best Acting awards. So we had Ernest Borgnine for Best Actor, and then Betsy Blair and Joe Montel for their supporting roles. Okay, so of these 3 actors, which of them starred in a Twilight Zone episode? Was it A, Ernest Borgnine, B, Betsy Blair, or C, Joe Montel?
I know the answer. This is too easy.
Okay, hang on. Let's give everyone a chance. 20 seconds, everybody. Okay, that's time. Which of these actors starred in a Twilight Zone episode? Ernest Borgnine, Betsy Blair, or Joe Montel?
Joe Montel.
Hey, you're right, Lorenzo. Well done. Ernest Borgnine did do a lot of television shows, but he never did a Twilight Zone. Now, I don't know that Betsy Blair ever did any television, but she for sure did not do a Twilight Zone. Joe Montel was actually in a really excellent episode of Twilight Zone from 1960. His was called Nervous Man in a $4 Room. Oh, I love that we're able to make so many Twilight Zone connections in this series.
What's the Twilight Zone?
What's the Twilight Zone? Am I hearing this? You don't know what the Twilight Zone is?
No.
How is this possible?
Does it have something to do with vampires?
Vampires? What? No! Oh, Lorenzo, do I have a homework assignment for you?
I must insist on work-life balance. I know my rights.
Oh, Lorenzo.
Fresh from the carton, prunes are ready to be served in an infinite variety of ways. Raw, for example. The special tenderized process makes prunes so tender and good you can eat them just like candy right out of the box. For serving with meat, spiced and pickled prunes. Or prune pie, a tempting, luscious dessert with a billowy meringue that can be put together in a twinkling. Prune whip is another famous American dish the perfect dessert for a perfect meal. Here's another wonderful treat, prune birthday cake, a tender, moist, fruity cake, just right for every day of the year and for special occasions too, such as Junior's birthday party. However you serve these prunes, you can be sure they are a delicious, full-flavored, perfect-eating fruit. Just as important, they are rich in nature's own vitamins and valuable food minerals, a quick energy food that gives children and adults alike that good-to-feel-good feeling. Serve prunes often. They are good anyway, anytime.
Change of scenery. We're in my kitchen now. Hey, did you catch that? One of the delectable desserts mentioned in that ad was prune whip. Now, when you spend as much time as I do poring over vintage material, well, you run into prune whip a surprising amount of the time. I know, this is one of the shocking discoveries you make in this kind of hobby. I mean, who hears about prune whip today? But if we go back a few decades, prune whip and variations on prune whip, well, they were a thing. For example, I have here a little cookbook, or it's a little recipe book from, I'm guessing it's the 1950s. It's called 10 Cakes Husbands Like Best. Now, I have to admit, there are some amazing sounding cakes in here. I mean, we've got chocolate rapture cake, marshmallow devil's food cake, Hawaiian lei cake, and wait for it, spicy prune whip cake. Ladies, try that one on the man in your life. Now, I've also got some print ads here. Here's a Sunsweet prune ad from the March 1923 issue of Ladies' Home Journal. It says, "Shake hands with health every day with Sunsweet prunes." Prune whip. Everyone knows it. Everyone craves it every so often. Everyone realizes how good for health it is. But not everyone realizes that prune whip is the most willing of all desserts, willing to make itself into a half-dozen delicious variations. Start off with the usual prune whip, the whip every woman knows how to make. Vary it by baking in a casserole, and you have a dainty pudding served hot or cold. Vary it again by baking in a pastry shell for a wondrous souffle. Or add a cupful of rice and you get a dessert dish that is rich and nutritious. Or add gelatin and you have a delicate molded fruit salad. I mean, who doesn't love a molded fruit salad? Am I right? Or it says here you can add whipped cream and freeze it and you have a prune mousse fit for any feast. Wow, so many tasty options. Okay, and here's a Sunsweet ad for prune juice. Oh, this is very reassuring. For breakfast, try Sunsweet prune juice. It's the only prune juice with uniform laxativity. We use an exclusive controlled process that keeps the laxative strength of every glassful of Sunsweet the same. Now, that really is good to know. Now, one of my favorite discoveries about the popularity of prunes in the 1950s were ads about prune cakes and prune whips for kids' birthday parties. Can you imagine? Now, I found one online that shows these kids wearing party hats. They're all sitting around a table. They've got their party outfits on with their hats and everything, and they're eating prune tarts. Now, it looks like these tarts are just essentially prune whip that's served in pastry shells. Anyway, I found this ad out on Reddit, and the best part of it was the comment section. Somebody wrote, "A prune party for kids. What could go wrong?" And somebody else wrote, "A good time was had by all, but the after party was crappy." Oh my. Well, you get the idea. Naturally, all of this makes me want to try prune whip. So I went out to the Sunsweet website to find a recipe, and yeah, they had one. But first, a word about Sunsweet. Most of the ads that I find about prunes going all the way back to the 1920s, are by Sunsweet. Apparently, they've been the leader in prune production for years, decades, and they still are to this day. When you go to the prune section in Walmart, Yes, they do have a prune section. I was there just today. You basically find two brands. You find Walmart's store brand, and what is that, Good Value or something? And you find the Sunsweet prunes under their Amazing Prunes label. You know, I start these things and then I go down strange rabbit holes. So there's a section on the Sunsweet website named Gifts. So, of course, I had to go check that out. They sell something called French Kisses, which are chocolate-covered plums. And I have to say, they're beautiful. They would make a perfect gift. You know, each one is individually wrapped in gold foil. They're put in these pretty little bags. I mean, they are the perfect stocking stuffer. I don't even think I'm kidding about this because there's something sort of traditional sounding about Christmas plums. So that's kind of perfect. Now, I should mention that they sell more than prunes and plums. Sunsweet is a dried fruit company, so they sell cherries, dates, apricots, and plums and prunes. But I think prunes is their main thing because they've just got more prune products out there than anything else. Now, naturally, there's a treasure trove of recipes out here starring prunes as the main ingredient. Let's see, we've got iced prune chai latte, prune pizzas, prune cheesecakes. Oh, how about this? Roasted pork tenderloin with prunes. It's not all about desserts. We also have spiced lamb and prune meatballs. Oh, now here's something I really must try someday. Peanut butter chocolate covered prunes. Good. Who needs Reese's when you can have peanut butter chocolate covered prunes? Okay, but I'm not making that today. What I'm making today is baked prune whip. Now, it has to be said that I am not a baker, and this recipe comes with a warning. It says, remember, baking is a science, so be sure to keep an eye on the recipe and the cook time as you make this yummy treat. Well, way to go, Sunsweet, in destroying my confidence before I even begin. Okay, so I'm going to gather up all of the ingredients, and in the meantime, I'm going to give you some Sunsweet commercials, circa 1960. Enjoy. Back in a moment.
I'll warn you in advance, I'm not going to like your prune.
I see. And why do you say that?
I say that for a very simple reason. I don't like prunes.
Mm-hmm. And why?
For one thing, prunes are wrinkled, and I don't like wrinkled fruit.
You don't?
No, I don't like wrinkled fruit at all. And then there's the matter of the pits. Disgusting.
Yes.
Well, what do you do with a prune pit once it's in your mouth? There's no way of getting rid of a prune pit gracefully.
I agree. That's why Sunsweet has developed this brand new pitted prune. You see? No pits.
What do you mean, no pits?
I mean no pits. Go ahead, try one.
Oh, well, yes. May as well get it over. No pits.
No pits.
How do they do that?
They do it.
Well, they're very sweet and moist.
Yes. Has Sunsweet managed to change your mind with their brand new pitted prune?
Possibly. They're still rather badly wrinkled, you know.
Today, the pits. Tomorrow, the wrinkles. Sunsweet marches on. You are looking at Mr. Ray Bradbury, distinguished science fiction author of Fahrenheit 451 and the Martian Chronicles, who has said, by the year 2001, man will travel about in pneumatic people tubes, his television wall to wall, and most incredible of all, his Sunsweet pitted prunes carried in tiny mini packs.
Hold it. What's going on here?
Pardon me?
I never mentioned prunes in any of my stories.
Oh, you didn't?
No, never. I'm sorry to be so candid.
No, they're not candied, but pretty sweet all the same. The prune of tomorrow, available now.
They're still rather badly wrinkled, though.
Sunsweet's wrinkle technicians will one day conquer that, too. Sunsweet marches on.
I never mentioned prunes in any of my stories. What are these people trying to pull?
Okay, for our baked prune whip today, we need the following ingredients. 1 cup prunes, 1 cup prune juice, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, 1 teaspoon almond extract, 3 egg whites, a pinch of salt, and 1/4 cup of sugar. Now, I do have all my ingredients lined up. I buttered my baking dish, which is part of the prep. But you know what? I'm suddenly remembering why I don't have a cooking channel. I find this sort of thing completely overwhelming. I mean, it says here, cook the prunes. I don't know how to cook prunes. So I'm going to have to consult Google here. Hold on one second. Oh, okay. Fairly easy. You put the prunes in a saucepan with water, or in this case, prune juice, and cover them. Let them cook until they're soft and the liquid is absorbed. About 20 to 30 minutes. Oh no, that is time that I had not included in my schedule today. But oh well, we're going to do it. Okay, now I'm going to sort all of this out, and when I come back, I'll let you know what happened, and we'll do a little taste test. And we're back 50 minutes later. Well, my prune whip is still in the oven, but I do think it's just about ready to come out. I'm going to make the call. I'm pulling it out. I'm afraid if I leave it in much longer, it's going to get more brown looking, and I think it's brown enough. So, okay, it looks firm, kind of fluffy. I don't know if that's right or not, but we're going to go with it. Okay, let me kind of dig into this. It's still hot. Okay. Okay, not horrible. That's my first impression. You know, I thought this was going to be sweeter than it is, and I'm honestly glad that it's not sweeter. I'm not a huge fan of really super sweet things. Better than I anticipated. You know, here's the thing though. I felt like it was kind of time consuming for the payoff. You know what I mean? I'm not a baker. I don't love cooking. If you are a baker, I would say this is worth trying. But will I make it again? Probably not. I don't love it enough. So there you go. It's okay, but there are better desserts out there. That's my ringing endorsement. And so ends my career as a baking audio blogger. Well, Lorenzo, mystery solved. We now know what prune whip tastes like.
Not knowing was killing me.
Yeah, very funny.
Maybe you should tell the people about next week's movie.
Oh, good idea. Well, so far in this series, we've spent time in the 1940s, in the 1950s, and even in 1960. But next week, we're dialing up 1934 in the old time machine for the romantic comedy It Happened One Night. This one's starring Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. It's a classic, and it should be a pretty good one.
Another romance.
Yeah, well, what can I say, Lorenzo? Spring has sprung. Love is in the air.
Is that what I smell?
Well, thanks everyone for hanging out with us this week. Remember to check out our YouTube channel, Vintage Century Idle Hour, and subscribe if you'd like to give us a little push. We're one subscription away from my goal of reaching 10 subscribers by summer. We are on our way. Well, have a great week, and when your week is done, come on back and see us again. Say goodbye, Lorenzo.
Goodbye, Lorenzo.